program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is called The Buddy Martin Show, and the guy on the left is not. He is, I think it might be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anyway, we'll introduce him in a second. Welcome, folks. We're going on a little bit of different format tonight. Looks the same to you, hopefully, but we're back for another night of it. Lots to talk about. Florida, the only school to have baseball and softball make it to the College World Series in 2024. A lot of people are buzzed about this. A lot of Gators I've talked to are very, very happy and buzzed and excited. So we'll see what David says about that. Stand by. We're coming up next right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Program, I think. Yeah, he's there. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's there. But experimenting on the new format. Tommy's still up tonight. First one in, he has the pole position. And David Whitley, award-winning David Whitley, from the Gainesville Sun and many other papers, joins the program on Tuesday nights always. It's one of our favorite nights because he's kind of nuts. That's why we like him so much. And David, it's been my Gator fans are telling me this is one of the best times they have ever had in this last 8 or 9 days. And it started with the softball team and ran through all the way to Clemson. I don't know. Give me your thoughts about what just happened and what you're hearing.
It's been a big pick-me-up, because football set so much of the tone of the university and the mental outlook of people. And, that hasn't been a lot to feel good about. It's been hopeful, but, nothing real tangible to cheer for. And basketball team did well, but it wasn't like everybody left. It lifted sort of the overriding, malaise. But man, once, and then, they were the first 3 months of the baseball season, which most people can turn to for blessed spring relief. That was a downer, pretty much. But then suddenly, I don't know what got into them, but something definitely got into them about 3 weeks ago, baseball, just as it happened to coincide with, people really turning their focus to softball right when they were getting in the playoffs. And then boom, the women did great. I mean, there's certainly, they didn't win it all, but they were by no means, losing, finishing third in the nation and beating Oklahoma. So once you get over the initial disappointment, you realize that was a great run and a great year. And, then.
Can you see this picture, David? You probably can't see it. Okay.
No, I see you. That's all
Okay.
I'm just happy to see you.
I had a roller coaster. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And then, you just, every time you look up that, baseball team is pulling some death-defying trapeze act and doing what they shouldn't do. I mean, who thought, it's iffy whether they'd get into the tournament. They barely get in. B, you figure, well, they'll be 2 and done out at their regional, and then they win 4 out of 5, including beating Oklahoma State twice, which nobody saw coming. Then you figured, all right, well, they got a puncher's chance at Clemson, and they didn't just win; it's how they won. Especially when again they looked like they're up, down, up, down, up, down. I mean, that last game was. The only bad thing about it was 5 hours long, and it was good. But holy smokes,
what a baseball game!
Yeah,
what a baseball game.
It was 5 hours, but if you're a Gator fan, you aged about 5 years in the end. Yeah. But in the end, you probably took 5 years. You felt like you were 5 years old at the end when Robertson hit that. They're one swing away from either being out of it or going to the College World Series. but the way, boom, there they go. And suddenly they're in the College World Series. Oh, and I guess we should squeeze in that, before that, if you're first the whole Gator thing, the men's track team wins the national championship and the women finish second.
How about that?
Yeah. So, if you
This is
can't
what
be closed right now.
Right. Here's what it looked like, David, right here. See that right there? There you are. There's that Gator leading that roller coaster ride. Amazing.
Yeah.
So now if I get it off there. Yeah, that was an amazing thing. And something that I'll never forget. I was talking to Chris Dorian. He said, all right, Brendan, text me how to get this thing off fairway. That this has been one of the most exciting times for Gators ever, and that he could not get over the fun it was. And I think the other thing, it was a bit of relief, David,
Mm-hmm.
And pardon me for leaving this on. I'll figure out how to get it off. This is all new design here. Yeah, here it is. No, that's not it. Oh, okay. Are you there, David? Okay, now I've lost him. Now I've done it. All right, David. I feel you, David. I just got to get. All right, Brendan, tell me again how I do this. This is against a new system. I'm just working on it. I'm trying to get this picture out.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go ahead and finish talking, David. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, as you said, Doring said it felt like a relief. And this was a Gator Nation that needed some relief, like a big BC powder. And that's what it's gotten the last few weeks. I mean, there's no way you can't feel good about what the last. If you're not buzzed about that, and especially as I was saying, the way that last game went, that last baseball game, where they, I mean, that alone, that was like a microcosm of the season. Up, down. Clutch hitting, clutch pitching, non-clutch hitting, non-clutch pitching. But in the end, they did what they had to do, and I mean, who would have thought that here we are, June 10th, and we're still talking baseball?
Yeah. And here's the other thing, David. You and I, as sports writers, we kind of live and write about moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
We live for these games where we have a moment to expand upon and sort of freeze time and enlarge whatever. And if you go to a game and you get one or two of those, you think, hey, that's pretty good, right? I got a couple of choices to write about this moment, whether it was Spurrier's field goal or whether it was Reeves to Alvarez or whether it was Doring's got a touchdown, all these moments. I don't remember so many moments.
Yeah.
I mean, in the baseball game alone, there were 5 or 6 you could have written about.
Right.
Unbelievable catches, remarkable plays, comeback stories. Cagnell is a great story. I mean, just one after the other. I'm thinking, I could write 10 columns about this, David.
Oh, yeah.
Seen so many things.
This would have been, you've been with people covering games and a crew, and you isn't that good? And you start thinking, all right, will you do a sidebar? And he said, man, we don't have enough there's not enough to go around here. This would have been one, just there's too much going on. I mean, there were so many heroes, and just the big picture. This would have been a tough one if you were sitting there thinking, what was the most important moment? Well, this could be it. That could be it. That could be it. And just the overall picture. They all added up to this jubilation at the end.
Yeah,
you could see just them running around, and just gosh, I was putting myself in the place of the Clemson fans. It had to just kill them.
Can you imagine that?
Kill them.
Smoked in their own ball yard.
Yeah,
because they never lose.
Yeah,
right?
Because you had to, if you're Clemson, you had to feel good. They're rallying. They went down 5-2, and then they come back and tie. And then that center fielder I forgot Cano's already whatever it is. I mean, he'll just forever be known as Willie Mays with that with that catch.
Over the
and you figure,
yeah.
I mean, like Sully said, maybe been the greatest catch he's ever seen. And
I've heard people say that. Shane Matthews said it may be the greatest athletic play he's ever seen. Any kind.
Yeah.
Think about this, David. He's turning around. All right. First of all, he's in Cameron, right? He's in. He has to turn around and go back. He has to turn around and run backwards, trying to catch over, and then adjust his route.
Yeah.
To the circle, and then he catches the ball on the heel of his glove
Yeah.
and holds it like that.
Right. Yeah.
I
It
mean,
would have been a great catch if he caught it in the first inning with it being 0-0
Yeah,
in the
and
third
that's
inning.
all games at stake.
Yeah.
If Robinson, game's over.
Yeah. Yeah. But the fact, it was such an important catch at that moment. And when that happened, if you're a Gator fan, you're thinking, yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's not our day.
Exactly what I said this morning.
Yeah.
Is that it's over.
Yeah. And if you're a Clemson fan,
and it ain't going to happen today.
Yeah. Right.
Just
If you're a
not
Clemson fan,
today.
you're thinking, you couldn't have felt better than, maybe if Dabo would have said, I'm going to start recruiting Kugelin out of the portal, you might have felt better. But otherwise, it'd be like, holy, this is, Frank Howard's up there just high-fiving somebody, it's just
the rock
crazy. It's crazy. And, and then they take the lead,
Yeah.
And at that point, you're thinking, hey, great run, Gators. You did, you've gone a lot farther than we think. Right. Hey, congratulations.
Concession, what do you call it? When you get a consolation prize, right?
Yeah, you like Miss Congeniality, here you go.
I mean, here's the thing: the same guy, Cameron, who makes the catch, comes back and hits the home run to take the lead.
Right? Yeah. Like I said, if you're writing that, you're thinking, all right, I got my guy.
That's right.
He's done it all. Could do nothing more. All we needed for them to just, get the outs. And then the guys who come up, and I give credit to Franz because the first three guys who got up, they were like 1 for 16 in that game.
Yeah,
for the Gators going in.
Yeah,
and then
it was like 0 for 6 or something.
Yeah,
boom. Said, don't worry about it. Florida's got their number 9 hitter coming up, who's 0 for 6. They'll take care of it, right? Yeah. If you watch this little clipping, is so good because what I loved about this softball team, and this baseball team, and even the track team is the joy that they had about this.
Yeah.
Such a joyful thing. And they're all rooting for each other. And here's Caglione, who's going to be a billionaire playing baseball. And the game is over, and he can't believe it. He's in the dugout, and somebody turns on the camera, and he's there with a great big smile on his face. They're thinking, oh, he's happy about going to Omaha. And he says, how about that, Joey? Oh, it comes true. Oh my goodness, so great! I'm so happy. He was so happy for him. Robertson. He was just gushing about Robertson.
Right.
I mean, I know I sound like I'm a teenager right now, gushing over a matinee. I don't know if they still have those, but I'm telling you what, it was magnificent.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. And in 20 years, Jack Caglione will probably look back on his baseball career and have, more memories than even up to the major leagues, and he'll have. But I bet that 13th inning at Clemson, is going to be in his top 2 or 3.
Oh man, it's got to be a top 2 in your life forever for sure. Anyway, it was really great. And then on top of that, then the track team.
Yeah,
you can't make this stuff up. They win by 1 point in the men's championship, right?
Yeah.
Then the women come along, and Arkansas goes 4 for 4.
Yeah,
and they get all the points, and Florida loses the national championship on the same weekend by 4 points to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, the softball team, who was probably the best of the teams, who all they had to do was break Oklahoma's 20-game postseason win streak, right?
Yeah.
To make that happen, at which they did, by the way, and force it to a showdown. They played great, and Skylar Wallace is just absolutely fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
Something I mentioned, Parker Valpi. I mean, these women they were sensational, both as athletes and players, but as representatives, who wouldn't want to have them as a representative for their school?
Yeah, those when you talk about first ballot Hall of Famers, in UF and beyond. I mean, because it's hard to imagine anybody having a bigger impact, not just on the field, but just as far as a culture changer than Skylar Wallace had. On the softball team. And I mean, Parker Valley, her records may stand till Buddy Martin the fourth is doing this show. Down the road. I'll
be one of those.
Yeah.
Brendan Martin the fourth.
Brendan Martin the fourth. Yeah, but it's what she did was amazing. And I mean, the women got second, but again, there's no shame in finishing second in the country. If you came away from that thinking, oh man, you're consider yourself too spoiled. especially the night before, because you put yourself in Auburn's spot. They're sitting there and said, "Oh God, if Florida just finishes fourth, we got it. And they, but wasn't going to happen. And the fact, this could have been, and you're talking about what a great, managing job this has turned out to be for Sully. It's sort of hard to gauge Mike Holloway's coaching job because he always wins. But when you see, and I was looking over, really, they turn over that roster. Like Waffle House does pancakes if they did pancakes. And so like virtually almost all their scores from last year that won it and the last year were gone. But he just, nobody brings in talent and develops it quickly and develops it further like Mike Holloway.
He's the greatest coach ever in Florida. You can go ahead and say it. I'm sorry, Urban. I'm sorry, Steve. I talked to Steve about him. I said, how does this guy do it? He said they have a champions room at the restaurant, Spurrier's Grand Grill. Yeah. He said that each coach, national champion coach, pictures hang in there. The last time Mike Holloway was there, Steve said to him, "Coach, we got to have 4 or 5 more pictures of you up in this room, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "How does he do it?" He says, he gets them to buy in, and they do his training.
Yeah,
they train the way they're supposed to. And then mathematically, I thought Urban was a great planner. How do you figure it out to a point where you're going to win by a point?
Yeah. Well, you just you hope that because all those top teams, they try to figure out, all right, where are you going to get it, where you're not, who has to do what, and Auburn. I don't know how they didn't come up with a 4x400 somewhere along the line.
Really, you would think they would
just to get one, or because most SEC teams can come up with 400. Maybe they didn't have enough, and they ran them another. Maybe they maxed out their points, but it was one of those things because this wasn't a sort of funny, one of those great Florida track teams. Usually the winner of that meet scores 60, 70 points. They won it with 40, 41 over 40. And it's almost like it is a mathematical equation. If I get my 2 guys, they can get my 2 grid spinners. Do I put them, in the 4x1 together, or I split them up, and do I run one into 200? It's all about, where you bring the most points out of, and they came through with that. And but 2 of their best, it came down to that last race where it was the 4x400, and 2 of the better 400 meter runners, they didn't run because they had just run the 200, right. And he figures, all right. So then that got back to the depth that they had. So, and he knew that, all right, these guys, they will probably run like a 3:01. That should be enough to get second or third, if not first. And it's mainly just go out there and do your job. But you're right. What Spurrier said to you is true, and Holloway has said this as much too. When what's his key? Says they know where they're going to come here, and they just look at the record. They look what we've done, and he says, so if you change it, he says no. Says running is running. Says I know how to get the best out of these guys and women, and they trust me, and they realize they just trust me and do their job. This is going to happen, and it's funny. You saw him after. It's almost getting routine. The interview on ESPN with John Anderson doing it, to give him the trophy, and it's almost the same thing here. The team's going wild. Holloway's just sort of, very, very calm with him. He'll do a few Gator thing, but he's not going nuts. But he's enjoying.
He led the little chant at the end. If you watch it on ESPN Plus, you could hear him. The players. It was kind of neat watching them. Like they were Marines marching, saying they'd echo it. It was really cool. Hey, stand by 1 second. We got Rob Brown here from Sidelines. He'll join us. But first, I want to say we're sitting there talking, gushing like 2 teenagers. But I'm sorry, and we'll get Rob's perspective. He does Sidelines. His is a little more global than ours. But this is a stat that's amazing. In 2009, Florida lost a super regional to Southern Miss and Kavanaugh Sullivan's second year. Since that year, they've gone 9-0 in supers on the Sully, reaching Omaha 9 times in the past 14 seasons. Wow, that's an amazing stat, isn't it?
Well, I think all the grousing that Sully sort of, he didn't have as good coaching job. He lost it. The guy has nothing more to prove here. He was. Sometimes, it's just
please don't go, Sully. Please don't go.
No, Yeah, so we don't, frankly, blame the players as much as we should sometimes. Because he puts them in the position to do what they have to do.
Or they don't, and sometimes they
and
didn't.
a lot of times they just didn't come through. But it's a long. You never see him panic, and he just says, "All right, it's just a matter of will someone come along and get it together?" And
great point. And I'm going to do this and tell folks about our good friends at Meldon Law. We're going to bring Robin here and talk some stuff. And of course, one thing I love about what he does, Jeffrey Meldon, is he gets the biggest kick out of being a Gator fan. He's always supporting, sponsoring things, contributing money to the university. He's their official, the only injury law firm that they use at the University of Florida. He, of course, loves the Gators, does many things, and is a guy that makes it happen both in the courtroom and, of course, out in the field of play. And so if you need a lawyer, I can only say to you, I've known this guy a while, and they've got a brand new office, by the way, located in Williston. They're now in Williston, Lake City, Ocala, and Gainesville, and they've got plenty of lawyers for you if you'd like to get involved. You need an evaluation of your case, give them a call, go online, check them out. They give away a lot of nice prizes on Facebook. Meldon Law, they won't back down. And guess what else? This guy won't back down either. He does a show. Hello, Rob. How you doing?
Great. Just listening to y'all talk about the track and field. I love track and field. I volunteer coached at 14 years middle school with my kids for 9 of those years. I always tell those kids, track and field is your insurance policy for every sport you play. And I see people on the track when I'm out there running. There's some folks in their 80s that are out there. I mean, and Leroy Burrell, I remember Carl Lewis and him were teammates at Houston. And this rivalry, Florida 40, Auburn 39 the other night, that was really cool. And Florida, that's 14 national championships for Mike Holloway.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the winningest coach in track and field, I would imagine, in the history of track and field. So I think that's a huge deal. And y'all are right about the weekend that the Gators had. Right now, they came in at 29-27. They've got 34 victories. In comparison, Tennessee has 55. Who wants to play Florida right now?
Yeah, Bino Cook used to always say, which one do you like the most, track or field?
Yeah.
David, which one do you like the most, track or field?
Yeah. It's not for everybody, but I'm a track guy too, and and I could sit there and watch it, and it really gives you an appreciation for what because he makes it look easy, but it's not easy. Going out. If it was, other teams would be winning it. And it's not. I mean, SEC is like everything. It's a meat grinder, and they got 4th in the SEC meet. That team like 2 weeks earlier. But the way track is set up,
they weren't worried. They knew what we were doing. He wasn't even worried about that.
No,
his guys were on the Nationals.
Yeah, because really, it, and they lost to Arkansas. Arkansas probably has more depth, and you score more points. But the higher the level, the harder it is to get those points. But and so they just you can have 6 great athletes and win. They have more.
Yeah.
But it's just. I mean, there have been cases where, one athlete has won a team title in high schools where they'll win 4 events and get 40 points, and, you are the personal state champion. That it's hard, but, Parker Valvey by herself probably was a top 5 team on the women's side with 20 points.
What's cool is if you've got really good field events, shot, discus, high jump, long jump, before the running events even start, you've got money in the bank. And I love it. I remember talking to Harvey Glantz one time, and I said, what was it like when you were 18? You weren't even a senior. You were a senior in high school, not yet enrolled at Auburn for Mel Rosen in 1976 in Montreal. He said, there's 110,000 people in that stadium. And we all got up there to the line, and I was the littlest guy. Harvey was 5'7", 155 pounds, but one of the strongest people per capita I've ever seen, pound for pound. And he said, 110,000 people, runners to your mark, get set. And there was a moment of silence, and he hears this loud war eagle out of the crowd. And he said, boom, next thing you know, I won. And he goes, it was surreal. But Florida, that's now 277 SEC championships. And we talked about it yesterday with Franz and Ben Troop. Well, Ben wasn't on, but Franz was. But I just think track and field and swimming, these are the things you ran as a kid, you swam as a kid, you rode your bike as a kid. And, these are the sports. I mean, look at Leroy Burrell. I just was looking up something on him. He's finishing up his second year at Auburn. How long has Mike Holloway been at Florida? Because you know about John McDonald at Arkansas won 40 national championships. Yeah. He was actually from maybe County Kerry, and Frank Broyles loved him because he said, Coach, I'd be glad to run your footballers, do some training with them. And that's what they did. It's so cool. Yeah. I mean, David, great. I've quoted you about half a dozen times on different shows I've been on in the last week. I said, David Whitley, great writer for the Gainesville Sun, said, college football, in spite of NIL and the portal, it's pretty much idiot proof. I love that quote. That's what you said on the Buddy Martin show. Remember that?
Yeah.
He did. David said a lot of things that got him in trouble.
Yeah, but you're right. I'm glad you mentioned John McDonald. I remember, Arkansas used to just be, he was like the UCLA with Woodman. It was unbelievable how they would just, year after year after year. And, now it's gotten more competitive. I mean, Arkansas still is a top flight program. Oh, yeah. But it's just hard to do. And, and hard, I hadn't thought hard. Then he supposedly, like he could, from a standing position, he would jump on top of a Volkswagen or something. I remember hearing
he did. And he died about just recently. He was only 67. And he went on and coached later at Alabama.
Really?
So, but I love this time of year. I think, when was the last that when we did have track and field, when we were all coming up, that's how you got those big 6'2", 225 pounders, Marcus Dupree, Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson. Who's the greatest athlete in y'all's opinion? Someone asked me, they said, ask the guys tonight on the Buddy Martin show. Who is the greatest athlete, football player, all around y'all have ever seen in Gainesville?
Well, I mean, I can go way back on that one.
Go back.
A name that you don't even know. And this is Gator fans say, what? Because they have some great ones. You can name quite a few different people. But if you talk to the guys who were alive then, Rick Caceres was absolutely one of the most fantastic athletes. First of all, he was huge. His muscles just ripple when he walked. He was like 225 pounds or whatever he was as a running back. And he was a great basketball player.
Yeah.
And Doug Dickey told me a story one time when they were playing basketball in Florida, and they went up there and there was some dispute after the game, and some Tennessee fans were acting up in the locker room, and said Rick went in there and he quieted him down right away.
Yes.
That guy walked out the door, those muscles. Yeah. But he was also the field goal kicker. I remember going to the games as a kid and watching him kick extra points and field goals over the Coca-Cola sign. Yeah. Unbelievable. He was just phenomenal. Now, he probably wouldn't make the cut today because you talk about some of the great players and, you can talk about Herschel. You certainly talk about all Auburn's great athletes they've had. And you can make a case for almost any of them. But personally, just that one guy, the recollections, because no one knows about him but me, I must say Rick Caceres just because.
All right.
Yeah. The greatest athlete he didn't actually play the sport he was famous for in Gainesville, but I remember one meet I saw. Herschel came for a Georgia-Florida dual meet when I was in school here.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, watching it, and he was the freakazoid we always knew he was. Mm-hmm. He won the 100, and then they were running the steeplechase, and somehow like the animosity between Georgia and Florida sort of spilled over and a couple of guys start jostling, and then they start elbowing, and then I've never seen this before or since. Two runners just stopped and they started throwing down in the middle of the steeplechase race, a Georgia guy and a Florida guy.
Wow.
And the other people on the team, the runners kept going in the race, but everybody else came around. And this man, and then Herschel, he sees and he runs over and he starts walking through like this, and it's like Moses in the Red Sea. He just parts everybody.
Peace.
Calm down. Yep. Okay, we'll go back to it.
I'm going to say this. Could be interrupted.
Love it.
I have to say it. I'll forget it. I'm too old. But really, in terms of the skill sets, Bo was amazing. First of all,
Bo might have been.
hitting the baseball is one of the hardest. It may be the hardest thing to do in sports. But he did everything, and he hadn't had problems with physical injuries. He would have been even more incredible. And you know it, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, Bo Jackson was just out of this world in terms of talent. And you talk about some names, you couldn't go wrong with any of those. But just as a local guy, you said Florida, Rick Caceres is amazing.
Yeah. I got to ask both of y'all real quick. Where do you rank these receivers in Florida history? Are these three players? Because I remember as a kid in Cecil's in Memphis, we'd go by all the football magazines. The front cover, I think it was 1977, Wes Chandler was a badass. And then there's Chris Collinsworth from Astronaut High School in Titusville, Florida. And I think also about Wilbur Marshall, the linebacker from Astronaut High School in Titusville, Florida. Yeah. Those are three of the greatest guys I've ever seen play football.
Yeah, that's a lot back right there, but I'm just saying.
That is a lot.
I mean, remember Chris Collinsworth was a quarterback. And when he first came into the deal, he had
NCAA record for longest pass.
99 yards.
99 yards.
There's some great ones. Well, let me switch. It's great topics, Rob, but let me get to another topic tonight. We talk a lot about spring sports, more than we ever have on this. But let's get back to football and some of the things going on right here. We're going to be joined by Lauren Meadows in a moment. I want to tell folks at TitanMRI.com, if you need an MRI, this is a new thing, you can do. If you're in the Ocala, Gainesville area, Titan MRI has an office there in Gainesville, and they absolutely will tailor-make your appointment for you at a time you can go, and want to accommodate you. How many times you had gone to get an MRI where people say, let me take care of what your needs are here. We know you get claustrophobic. We know this, and we want to make this comfortable. By the way, you don't have insurance? We'll take your check. We'll take your whatever, cash. You don't have to have insurance. And then the price is very reasonable. And then say, well, by the way, I work all day, like 10 hours a day. No problem. We can set up an appointment for you tonight at 9 o'clock or whatever you want to. And we'll go in and we'll make that possible. So these folks know how to do it. If you need an MRI, I highly encourage you, go see Titan MRI and go to their website, TitanMRI.com, and check it out. You'll be glad you did. Okay, August 31st, okay? August 31st. You guys are excited about football, right?
Yep.
You know what's happening on that day?
Yeah.
It may be the greatest day if you're a couch potato to just plop down and turn on ABC and just keep it there.
Clemson, Georgia, Miami, Florida, and Notre Dame, Texas A&M. How good is that?
Yeah.
It is. It's hard to.
Smoke's coming out of Rob's ears right now. I see.
Yeah.
81 days away, if anybody's keeping track.
81. Okay.
81 days, if anybody's keeping track. But
and then on Sunday, USC and LSU.
Yeah.
Oh my word! What a weekend.
There's a lot happening. September 1st is opening day of dove season. You've got college football. And
only in Alabama they say that.
Yeah, and I keep looking at the schedule for Florida, and we had a touchdown club meeting last night with two really good guests, and you know how those meetings are. What's OTR, but there was one of the things one of the guys said, and he's got a lot of experience in coaching, and I'm not going to quote his name or anything, but he said, "Thing about Florida, they may have a better team and be 6-6, and if they finish 6-6, 7-5 with this schedule, they might consider building a statue for Billy Napier." I'm curious, y'all know it better. You've forgotten more than I know. UCF, Miami, Florida State. That last 5 games that Florida plays is murderer's row. But I'm curious what y'all think about UCF and Miami right now.
David, you go ahead and comment. I got something. I'll be right back. You tell. I've got mine all lined up, and then we'll tell you what we think. Go ahead, Dave.
All right.
Oh yeah. Well, Miami and UF, they're almost mirror images of each other.
Okay.
Two coaches that came in with much hoopla, saved the program pressure, a lot of money, a lot of commitment, and so far, at best, the jury is still out. And so that means that these are two fan bases that want to see results right away. And what happens in that first game is going to be such a tone setter for both teams.
Yeah.
And Miami probably, Cristobal, he's been recruiting. The whole knock on him is he can bring him in, but he doesn't know what to do with him really. And so Miami fans want to see it. I think that it would hurt more Miami if it doesn't work out with Cristobal than with Florida Napier, because he is a Miami guy.
Oh yeah.
And if he doesn't work out, you think, well, like, where do you go? I mean, because
that's it. I mean, you're right. He was Feinbaum raved about Cristobal. Great recruit, whatever. Hasn't got it done, Rob. And you're right, David. Exactly. I didn't mean to interrupt you because you're on a roll there, but I mean, go ahead and finish up. I heard a great assessment by Cole Cooper like the other day by saying, since when did Florida State get any better? They lost a bunch of players.
Yeah.
You can't say that Florida's going to lose that game in Tallahassee. You just don't know because, and I throw this in there and let David finish his thought. I apologize, David, for interrupting.
No problem.
Is that this long season and 12 teams going to the playoff and the impact of playing in a tough league now. There are no off days in the SEC. No. And you're going to get your brains beat out. And long about November, who's going to still be standing? That Ole Miss team you thought was going to be so good could be beat to a pulp, or whoever, and so now it's a different game in November, and these teams that we think are so good. Guess what? I remember at Texas A&M had all this great material and Jimbo Fisher. There were going to be stuff happens. So this season could be wild and wacky, David. We don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that UCF is always sort of a wild card because when stacked up against the other teams, you figured, all right, that's a game Florida should win. But Gator fans don't need to be reminded what happened, the last time they played them in the Gasparilla Bowl, and obviously that was not that was not exactly a prime Gator team at that point.
Yeah,
but still, this is the program that long ago should have gained people's respect. This isn't UCF circa 2007. I mean they have gone a lot of places and beaten a lot of quality teams, and nothing motivates UCF more than playing Florida. This is their Super Bowl, and they have the talent. And Malzahn isn't going to come in and he'd been there, done that. He's going to have a great game plan there. So this is not the kind of where Florida needs to bring its A game there. If it brings its A game, it'll win. But figuring anything less than that, the UCF is just relishing the thought of okay, come in and think we're not think we can lighten up just a little because this isn't Miami and we're not SEC. That's the kind of thing that a lot of teams are going to live to regret if they look at UCF that way.
Rob, what do you think?
Well, I just look at UCF and I just say to myself, how can they feel like that they can play with Florida? I mean, I know what Gus doesn't recruit offensive linemen. That's the problem. He doesn't do it. So that's where they're going to get hurt against Florida. They're not going to be able to stand up on the line of scrimmage. Florida's going to have a bunch of full-grown men, not as many probably as they want on that front seven, but it's such a thing in nature. Ducks and geese will imprint on certain places. You cannot get Florida out of my head just being down on the field level and being at so many games, watching them over the years in person. I don't see UCF beating them. And the thing about Miami, I don't think Miami's as tough as they used to be. They're not recruiting the same kind of tough kids. My brother-in-law played football at Virginia Tech. Man, they made a culture, Frank Beamer did, out of recruiting tough, bring that lunch pail to work. I've got a theory about Kentucky. You want to make Kentucky football tough? Have that guy bringing the American flag when they come out of the tunnel onto the football field at night wearing a miner's light, okay, at night games. You got to recruit people that fit your culture. When you play Florida, I talked to some coaches last night. They're going, people are stupid if they're sleeping on Florida. And again, I'm not saying it because I'm on your show. I'm not falling for it. It's like a sniper. Pops one, someone else goes in there to get him. They pops him. Pretty soon, they're all gone. That first game against Miami is so big. And I just don't think Florida's. They opened up against Utah 2 years ago. They got the win. Last year, it was a disaster out on the road. They're not doing that again. I just don't think Billy Napier got a football lobotomy. I don't care what the schedule is. They're going to win more games than people are predicting. I'm not buying it because there's too much talent on the roster. There's enough to beat those teams. They can't go toe-to-toe in the line of scrimmage. That's what I think will be the difference for Florida. They got issues, yeah, but that Lagway guy, he's terrifying. He's going to make everybody in that building better. That's just my take.
Joined tonight by Lauren Meadows, Coach Meadows now.
Coach.
And welcome to the program. Interesting conversation tonight. Rob Brown, sidelines, David Whitley of the Gainesville Sun, and Coach Lauren Meadows. We're talking about the obvious thing. Hey, we're just getting pumped about this August 31st, Lauren. These games.
81 days.
But who's counting, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be one unbelievable. They're smart. It's a great opening act to what could be a great year with Clemson, Georgia, Miami, Florida, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and then of course LSU and USC on Sunday. So it's going to be great. So, all right, Lauren, I know that you've been out and about, vacationing, traveling the world, jet setting around what you always do. But you never really get too far from the subject of Florida sports, and I'm going to give you a chance to comment on the remarkable things we've seen in the last 7 or 8 days. If you would like to, David and I were just regaling people with our thoughts earlier about the fact that this is, can you imagine, David, we talked for 30 minutes about spring sports, right? It's incredible. I know
They've earned the time.
Yes, they have. And Lauren, I know you follow the track program really closely too, and Noah Mouse. And what a performance by the track team. Just to sum it up, Lauren. Go ahead. Tell us what you think.
Well, I mean, I think, Mouse has just done an unbelievable job of reinventing his team year in and year out. I mean, you think about it, they've been women's champ, then runner-up, and then obviously the three-peat. And the thing that was nice about the three-peat this year is they didn't win a single event, but, they just kept chomping at it. And, I heard you guys talk about earlier, they were able to get just some key points in some different field events and things like that. And those things add up, man. And they really ran that last relay race with a skeleton crew because they weren't able to have Robert Gregory or Wanye McCoy on it, which are two of their better runners, but they still were able to gut it out, get a third place finish. And that ended up being the deciding point, and I mean, I want to give credit to Leroy Burrell and what he's done at Auburn. I mean, they've done a great job in hiring him. And I mean, but Mouse is he can really get those guys to buy in, and he's kind of an example of using the transfer portal, and getting a lot of those guys, because a lot of those guys didn't start their career at Florida. But from what I hear from people, is Mouse is one of those people that he recruits you, but you choose to go elsewhere: Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Georgia. But every time he sees you to meet, he's still warm to you. He's still welcoming to you. Still likes to see you doing well, and that's what resonates with a lot of people. If you remember, I mean, they had Anna Hall and Jasmine Moore. Both of them started their careers at Georgia, and one of the things they talked about was how Mouse was still dialed into them just as people before they transferred to Florida. And both of them now train under Mouse here in Gainesville. And I mean, it's just remarkable what he's been able to do, and just being able to put it together year in, year out. And you talk about buy-in, that's what Mouse gets.
That's what Spurrier said. He gets them to buy in, and they train. He's got them then. And not to interrupt your thinking, but isn't it ironic? Here we've been talking now for months about the greed of college sports. NIL deals. Rob, we talked about it. Dave, we talked about it. You and I, Lauren, just like how greed was about to ruin college sports. In these recent weeks, the warm stories like Mouse and what you just told, the bonding stories like that was Skylar Wallace, one of the poster girls she was for recruiting, the baseball team's joy in getting to Clemson and beating Clemson, sweeping Clemson in Clemson, and then and then the overall feeling of people, of Gator fans, the veteran, especially guys like Chris Story and Shane Matthews, they are bursting with pride instead of thinking about all the greed going on. Maybe they have faith in humanity again, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at, you talk about that baseball team and Sully was under a lot of fire. And I talked to David Kopp, who's, Florida's pseudo, pitching coach. I know Sully works with the pitchers, but David spends a lot of time with those guys, and he's a good friend of mine. And just the pride that those guys have in being able to make a run. And they always knew it was there. Talking to Dave, he knew his pitchers could grind it out, and obviously the bats came alive for him a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you just look at guys like Sully and Tim Walton and obviously Mouse, and just, their ability to just put their head down. They dance with who brung them, and, they just really get those guys to buy in. I think Sully's a little sharper with the tongue on than Mouse and Tim are, but, it works for him and it works for his team. And I mean, the storyline with Sully being from Clemson and, David Kopp playing at Clemson and just all those things, the connections with that team and what that series meant. And for them to just keep plugging along, keep rolling, and that monster shot that I mean, I didn't think it almost looked like Cags that game one just kind of tapped the bat and it flew out to left field. And I mean, just so many moments. Yeah. That it's kind of reminiscent of that Ole Miss team that was one of the last to get in, and then you look up on the last day and they're still standing. I mean, I know they don't have great odds, but odds don't make the game. So you look at the spring, and it really had, for everything that we kind of dealt with in the fall and even sometimes in the winter, the spring was a good time to be in Gainesville this spring.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, David, last week we had you on. We were just lamenting the fact that Florida had passed NIL for high schools. We thought things were going to hell in a handbasket. And you said you'd come back from a meeting for 2 hours or something. And we said, we'll get back to you. We never did. Let's go back last week in that meeting you went to and covered when they passed NIL for high schools. What were you thinking about that at that point in time? How much gloom and doom is that surrounding the coaching profession by these guys and those NIL deals? And what is your feeling about it now?
Well, there is a lot of trepidation, needless to say, among the coaches. I mean, the head of the Coaches Association got up and he basically said, that I'm going to stand up here in 2 years and be saying, I told you so to the board members. The thing is that the board members know that. I mean, nobody wanted to be in that position, but the reality is that, NIL is here, and you just contain it as much as possible, and you control it. You try to keep it from getting out of control as much as possible. I mean, it's not like Florida's the trailblazer here. It's the 37th state to okay NIL, because everybody knows that if they don't okay NIL, there's going to be lawsuits, and they're going to lose those lawsuits. So they have to get it. The question is, how do they keep it from becoming pay for play? Well, they can't. I mean, it's just they can't. The NCAA can't do it with its enforcement divisions and its $1 billion budget. You can't expect high schools to do it. It gets down to, Frank, it's going to be the same way, but I don't think it'll be as bad as people say. For one thing, it's like someone looked up in Georgia that Georgia passed it last year, and only like 47 out of 160,000 athletes, like less than half of 1% of athletes got an NIL deal. And you're talking mostly for a few $1,000s at most. This isn't going to be like every kid is going to be offered $5,000 to switch schools. I mean, the 5 stars will go around, but even then, it's not millions of dollars. It's going to be thousands, but thousands of dollars is enough to get a kid to switch schools. So, but that is, that was going on anyway. Frankly, they just didn't get the money. And I got to think, basically, it's a losing battle because people are just reacting as to the human nature. I mean, the boosters, they love their school. They're going to do what they can to help their school get the best talent. And if you're a kid and you're thinking, I can stay at this school or this, I can make $5,000 at this school, I'm going to go to that school. If you're, and there's a big hang up on what is a collective versus a booster club, and what's the difference? There's really not a difference. They say, well, it's for service rendered, and they should get paid. I'm sort of getting off in the woods here, but but I mean, I think it's just one of those things you can't control, because you have to get rid of NIL and make it what everybody wants is to sort of like change human nature and ask people not to act in their self-interest. And people just aren't going to do that, So, there's going to be some kids that are going to be bought, and it's going to lead to imbalance of competitive. It's going to hurt the competitive nature of some. But I think it's like college football. Once we get through it and things settle down, everybody will adjust. We may not like it on the edge, but again, and not to repeat myself, it's idiot proof. People are still going to love it and still going to come up and watch it. And there's still going to be kids on Friday night going out there. The vast majority are just playing because they want to be out there.
Yeah. All right. So, Rob, you watched. Here we are gushing tonight about all this stuff. You've been watching from afar. You have a pretty good grip on what's going on in Florida. You do a lot of shows with this guy Brendan, who talks about it a lot. As you size this up now, and you look at what Florida has done, is it just us, or is the rest of the world noticing also?
I think people are noticing it. I haven't met Freddie Weeby, but what I know about him, the scouting report is this guy finds excuses to win. Everything he does, nobody's going to outwork him. I think what we're going to see in the next year and a half, 2 years, you're going to see universities take control of the non-revenue sports for men and women's sports. You'll have football, basketball, baseball for the men, women's basketball, soccer, and softball for the women. That'll be part of the Power 4, Power 5, whatever they call it. And then everything else will be run by the university. But I think these collectives, and y'all are right, there's very few people that are getting a lot of money. I'm talking it's a minute number, okay? And yeah, I would like to see it put into a trust, age-banded trust, an incentive-based trust, to where the better your grades are.
Rob is the point here. Rob is a money manager, okay? He handles people's money. So he knows what he speaks here, all right?
Yeah, and we've never had a wealthy family sit down, and we've dealt with some people that are worth just ridiculous Texas-type money, and never, ever have they said, we're going to give our 18-year-old $10 million, our 19-year-old 20, and our 20-year-old 50. It's all age-banded, 25, 30, and 35, or 30, 35, and 40. And I think that the way people I've seen it in my business where there's a lot of businesses where you get upfront money to move from firm A to firm B, and it ain't what you think it is. I mean, you get over there and you don't like it, you put a contract on there, and you leave 1 year into a 5-year deal, you owe 80% of that money within like 60 days. I think they need to put teeth in these contracts, have accountability. Without responsibility, authority, and accountability, you can't accomplish anything. But I think what's happened with Florida is, with most schools, there was some people that wanted to make 20 and 25%, street agents and stuff like that on these NIL deals. Now it's a much more streamlined, lower, and it's more for the benefit of the student athletes. Now, they say that they'll take care of the taxes, but when we start having players ruled ineligible because the IRS has a lien on them, that's when this is really going to be shaken up. But I think that the closer we're getting, we're going to get through this. And y'all know this. Once the games start, all that blank goes out the window. And you know what? One of these collectives I talked to, if you're a member, you're responsible for mentoring 5 student athletes. You take them to dinner, you teach them how to interview, look people in the eye, shake hands, how to write a letter, put your name in the upper left-hand corner. You teach them what you do in your daily life and in business, and you give back to them. Because just because you're giving money, you can't just walk away. There's responsibility there. If you've got accountability, they'll work. This one that Florida's got, what do y'all have? 500,000 living alumni?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, it's almost by default, Florida's going to end up having one of the biggest NIL programs. It's just getting the right people to run it. But you got a lot to hang your hat on.
Yeah, well, good stuff there, Rob, on the money. Running out of time, I want to give each of you a chance a minute to kind of respond anything you want to, but particularly the direction of how you think things are going in college sports now versus 3 or 4 months ago. Or if you want to comment on what the last 10 days was like. Let's start off with you, David. Give me your final thoughts on whatever topic you'd like to pick.
Way off topic. Scotty Scheffler, U.S. Open. That's all I'll say because you always got in a golf plug. Yeah, but yeah.
John Rahm dropped out today, by the way.
Yeah, bad foot. Oh, well. But yeah, local angle. The what's the kid Bell? First in it, but Gator sophomore made the U.S. Open as an amateur.
Okay.
Keep an eye out for him.
All
Now, if he makes the cut, or God knows he beats Scotty Scheffler, now that would be a story. Then you've officially entered the twilight zone. If a Gator gets up there.
By the way, Pinehurst is a remarkable place for the Open. I was there in Painter at 1. I covered that event. And then when he made that birdie on the 18th hole, it's a fabulous golf course, and they can make it really tough. So if you don't even like golf that well, Lauren, you ought to watch some U.S. Open at Pinehurst. It's going to be epic.
Yeah, but my thought, I'm enjoying talking season this year. Which we're in. I don't know why. It's just more interesting to talk because I'm when I saw that ABC schedule that was released today.
Oh wow!
I'm thinking, holy smokes! Bam, 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 and this, but every weekend is going to be pretty much like that from now on. And that is the upside to all this turmoil. It does lead to better rival. I mean, in the old days, if there's one game like that on the first weekend, you're like, thank God. But now it's all about getting eyeballs on the TV.
Yeah, we'll have something. Yeah, Lauren, I know you're getting all juiced up about it. And there seems to be Florida becoming a trendy pick by a lot of people. Say, well, don't sleep on the Florida Gators. I mean, Cole Kubelik's raving about them, not raving, but saying they're a team that you can't count out. Don't sleep on them. It feels like, and this is David, I think we'll verify this, there seems to be a little upsurge in things around Hogtown.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to people around town, and I know Robert Turner gets on me for, maybe not being a Billy guy, but I'm when it comes to Billy Napier, I'm from Missouri. You got to show me, and so when it really comes down to it, I think that Florida is going to have some high-profile games. A lot of people, kind of bullish on the Gators now, but like we talk about the NIL, when the smoke clears and they kick it off, none of that's going to matter. And that's the same thing with talking season with Billy Napier. At some point in time, Florida's got to get it done. And there's got to be a visible, improvement that leads to wins. And so, as we go through talking season and we buy in, I'm just kind of in wait and see mode, but I will defer to guys like Cole Kubelik and others that know quite a bit of football and that I respect and are sometimes more doubt into it than we are. So I'm gonna go with them for now and just see. Right. And as a Florida fan, I hope they're right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Rob, final thoughts?
Yeah, just first off, love being on this show with y'all. And I think I met one of Billy Napier's very good friends last night. I had a long talk with him. I talked with him again today. That's another reason I'm like, when he got to Florida, it was like, if you brought, I don't care if you brought in Wolfgang Puck or Gordon Ramsay, if you came in and your kitchen, the cupboard and the refrigerator didn't have a whole lot to work with, there's only so much you can do. It's kind of like being an Army cook or, cooking on board a ship. He's getting better talent, and everybody's taking that schedule and saying all those teams are just going to be as good as they think they are. That's not how it works. But we're going to have Roman Harper on the show with us from SEC Network in the morning to talk about the schedule and that show he did with Cole Kubelik. And it's going to be fun. But, man, Love being on this show, and I'll come on anytime you let me.
Well, we'll see a lot of Robbies on the family. We got a lot of plans for the future. Gonna do some stuff interesting. And guys, I want to thank you all tonight for a terrific job. It's always good to have you on. Welcome back. Let's get it on. Things are getting better around here. So thanks a lot. And we'll catch up to you again next week. Hopefully I'll be out and about on a little vacay. Rob, you maybe sit in a seat next week. You never know.
Whatever you need me to do, as long as I get to do it with these guys.
All right.
Buddy, you looking good, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
remember, 82 days till dove season opens in Alabama.
Yeah, that'll find in one of David's columns. That'll find its way in. So.
1,968 hours, if anybody's keeping track.
All right, guys. Good night. Thanks a lot. Appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Be good. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks very much.